we'll check.
And then I can, in the meantime, while I'm waiting, this gavel is given to all the members of the council. This gavel, to all the 15 of them. It's a present from South Africa to all the 15 of them. Now it is written, for to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains. It says, for to be free is not to merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. That's Nelson Mandela. That's Mandela. It was done by Khaukhelo. This lady's, that's a political coordinator. Deputy coordinator, these are my two bosses. I'm just their spokesperson. So they did this.
Okay,
and then they also got this book of Bishop Tutu, which is also part of our presidency. No future without forgiveness. And this is what we've been preaching for the last 2 years in promoting reconciliation, nation building among parties. That if you don't do this, if you don't forgive one another, the conflicts will go on forever. It is only when we begin to forgive that we can then start to reconcile and find lasting peace. Again, it was ordered by Khaukhelo, the politician, with the instruction of Martinez. And Jerry just obliged, as usual. Okay, boss, I think...
we start? I just wanted to check quickly, in terms of the health protocols, should we keep the masks on? Or is that...
Should we keep the masks on?
Normally you take them off when you speak.
Yeah, okay. That's good.
So you can take on.
Yeah.
But you must tell us when to start, right?
Yes, you're right.
Okay, so we can start from this point. Okay, good afternoon, colleagues and members of the press corps. So, as you would know, today South Africa's presidency of the Security Council, or its second presidency of its Security Council starts for December. We're also exiting at the end of December. And we have here today with us our permanent representative, Ambassador Jerry Matjila. I'm Martinez van Schalkwyk, the political coordinator, and my colleague Khaukhelo Mogashwa, the deputy political coordinator, is also with us. So we would like to take you through our program of work for the month of December and provide some highlights and then take some questions afterwards. So, Ambassador, if I can hand over to you. You've got the floor.
Thanks, Martinez van Schalkwyk, our political coordinator, also accompanied by Deputy Political Coordinator Khaukhelo Mogashwa. This is the engine room of South African Security Council. If you want anything, is this too. Welcome, colleagues of the media, here and those listening online. South Africa assumes the presidency of the United Nations Security Council today, 1st of December 2020, which will be the final month of South Africa's 2-year term as elected member of the Security Council. At the continental level, South Africa's chairship of the African Union will also be coming to an end early February 2021. The overarching theme of South Africa's term on the Council is to continue the legacy of Nelson Mandela. The sub-themes support the overall theme will be addressed through high-level signature events, namely 1, strengthening of cooperation between the UN and African Union, as well as 2, second signature event, implementation of security sector governance and reform, and its impact on peace building and sustaining peace. The December program of work of Security Council is mainly conducted during the first 3 weeks of the month due to the holiday season. The program, however, still contains a large number of regular monthly meetings, as well as 3 additional signature events as part of South African policy presidency of the Council. South Africa will continue to strive to promote unity in the Security Council and will work collectively with the Council members to enhance the effectiveness of the Council's initiatives in discharging its mandate to maintain international peace and security. Unfortunately, as you know, members of the media, COVID-19 pandemic continues to impact the Council's in-person meetings in the chamber. As a result, some of the meetings will be held virtually, while others will be in person, taking into account consideration to the health protocols issued by the UN Health Department and the guidance of the city and state of New York. This morning, the Council adopted the program of work. Let me just give you a view about the signature events that are coming. The 3rd of December, the first one, security sector governance and the reforms. In terms of its elective meetings, South Africa will hold a debate, open VTC, on the security sector governance and reforms at 8:30 New York Times on the 3rd of December. The meeting will be presided over by Dr. Naledi Pandor, our Minister of International Relations and Cooperation from Pretoria. This meeting will be key to advancing discussions on the role of SSR in the support of peace-building efforts and to sustain peace and stability. Furthermore, the meeting will also look at the gaps and challenges hindering effective and efficient implementation of SSGR, which are undermining efforts to sustain peace. The meeting is also intended to stimulate discussions on how to overcome the identified challenges and the Council's role in this regard. At the end, we hope to adopt a resolution as the outcome of this meeting. The negotiation of the draft resolution are at the final stages, and it is anticipated that it will be adopted on the 3rd of December. The second signature event is on the 4th of December, United Nations AU cooperations. This meeting is one of the mandatory annual meetings of the Council and is based on the report of Secretary Generals on cooperation between the African Union and United Nations. In view of its chairship of the African Union, South Africa will convene this meeting as a high-level debate again at 8:30 a.m. New York time, will be presided over by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. This will highlight the strategic partnership between the UN Security Council and the AU Peace and Security Council, and assesses this partnership in its commitment to prevent and resolve conflicts on the African continent, and how to effectively overcome challenges that may arise in this regard. We hope at the end we'll adopt a presidential statement as an outcome of the meeting. Again, negotiations are currently underway and almost on the final stages of this PRST, which we hope can be adopted on the 4th of December. And then there is a third forward-looking high-level meeting, promotion and strengthening of the rule of law, strengthening cooperation between Security Council and the International Court of Justice. This will be on the 18th of December. In recognition of the complementarity of both organs in carrying out the mandate to preserve international peace and security, this will be a public briefing by the President of the International Court of Justice and will focus on strengthening the cooperation between Security Council and the ICJ. 2020 marked the centenary 100 years of the ICJ, as well as the 5th anniversary of the United Nations and its charter. This public briefing is intended to explore ways to enhance the use of ICJ by Security Council in pursuit of sustainable peace and security. Let me just briefly then go week by week with you on the program. First week, December 1 to 4. The anticipated adoption of the resolution to review the mandate to combat piracy off the coast of Somalia is scheduled for December 3. This will be preceded by the debate that will be chaired by Minister Naledi Pandor, on security sector governance and the reforms. On the 4th of December, President Cyril Ramaphosa will preside over the debate on the cooperation between the United Nations and African Union. Then second week is what we call the Africa Week. There's a lot of Africa issues there, from the 7th to the 11th of December. The briefing on MONUSCO DRC starts the week, which will be held on the 7th of December, ahead of the renewal of the mandate on December 18. So we envisage that December 18 to adopt a resolution on the MONUSCO. The briefing on UNITAMS, United Nations Integrated Transition Assistance Mission on Sudan, will be held on the 8th of December. This is the second meeting since the mandate was adopted. So we move from Southern Africa to the Horn of Africa, to Sudan. Then on December 9, we come back to Central Africa. The Council will meet to discuss development in Central Africa, mandated under the United Nations Office for Central Africa, Lord Resistance Army. And on the 10th, we are still in Central Africa, towards the north. The Council will discuss ICC Sudan in the morning. The regular briefing on UNITAD, United Nations Investigative Team to promote accountability for the crimes committed by Daesh/ISIL, will be held in the afternoon. So whilst we are still in Africa, we'll bring in the issue of Daesh SSL. And then you cross over to the Middle East, and the meeting on Syria chemicals will take place in the morning of December 11. The format of the meeting is expected to be an open VTC briefing, followed by the closed VTC consultations meeting. On the same day in the afternoon, the Council will be briefed on the work of Sudan Sanctions Committee 1591, which will be followed by consultation on UNDOF, United Nations Security Force on Lebanon. And then we come to week 3, 14 to 18 of December. On the morning of December 14, the Council will discuss Afghanistan, UNAMA. A debate on international procedural mechanism for criminal tribunals will take place in the afternoon. And then on the 5th of December, the Council will hold a briefing and close consultation on South Sudan, including the work of the Sanctions Committee. And on December 16, the Council will discuss the political and humanitarian situation in Syria in that morning. In the afternoon, the Council will receive briefing from various outgoing chairs of various subsidiary organs. Then December 17, an open debate and briefing, followed by a close consultation on the situation in Yemen. And in the morning of the 18th, we hope to adopt a schedule of the resolution to renew mandate on MONUSCO and adopt resolution on UNDOF, Syria Golan Heights. This will be followed by a briefing on strengthening the cooperation between Security Council and the ICJ, as I said. The 1st, the 4th, and the last week, 2 days, 21 to 25 December. A briefing on the Middle Middle East, including the question of Palestine, will be held on the 21st of December. The Council is expected to receive a written report on the implementation of Resolution 2334 on the settlement activity in occupied Palestine territory from the Secretary General. And on December 22, the Council will hold a briefing on a non-proliferation, which relate to the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal. The same afternoon, the President will hold a wrap-up session on the Council activities. Then Martinez and Kagolo say, thereafter, you'll be given early Christmas to leave. They are so generous, the colleagues. In terms of additional outcomes that are envisaged, during the month, the Council has been discussing the PRST on the situation in Burundi. This follows the assessment visit of the Under-Secretary General for Africa, Ms. Bintou Keita, to Burundi in October, and a subsequent report that has been issued by Secretary Generals. Negotiations are underway, and upon agreement, the PRST will be issued. So this is, in short, colleagues, the program of work of Presidency of Security Council. The second one, we had the first one October last year, so I've been privileged to come back to chair the council as we exit midnight December 31st. Back to you, PC.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Now, all the question goes there.
Thank you, Ambassador. And we now take questions on the program of work. So let me start in front here, and then we'll go to the back.
Thank you very much. Ambassador, I listened to the 4-hour discussion Friday on the unilateral coercive sanctions, and I very much appreciated your own speech on the subject, and also made some very good points. I would like to ask you that since all 5 permanent members of the Security Council possess nuclear weapons and are in violation of Article 6 of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, why is North Korea being singled out, and the sanctions, which are not unilateral, which are Security Council sanctions, are having disastrous humanitarian consequences? And according to former U.S. Attorney General Ramsey Clark, having been informed that these sanctions are having disastrous consequences, humanitarian consequences, if nothing is done to stop them, then the Security Council is legally an accessory to crimes against humanity. So can you explain this conundrum? The Security Council, on the one hand, accepts 5 permanent members possessing nuclear weapons, and India and Pakistan are, according to the Pakistani ambassador, in a very dangerous, precarious situation where there's a possibility of a nuclear accident at best. And this is being ignored while a tiny country in Northeast Asia, which was obliterated in the 1950s and now has to defend itself, is under constant. The question is, why are these double standards tolerated, and what can be done?
Thank you very much. So I think we'll take another question, and then we'll get back. So do in the back, and then we'll come after that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. On behalf of the United Nations Correspondents Association, welcome and thank you for doing this briefing. I have 2 questions. One on Libya. Can you give us an update on the prospects of getting a new special representative envoy appointed, and we understand from diplomats that there have been blocks by a number of people, including the Africans, to actually naming a new envoy. And secondly, on Iran, following the assassination of its top nuclear scientist, are you expecting any action by the Security Council? Have there been any requests? Have there been any contacts because of the obvious implications for regional stability and security? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Ambassador, I think we'll do these two questions and then we take further.
Thanks very much for the first question, my sister sitting in front. You have raised the question that for the last 3 decades has been discussed within the NPT and its reviews. The question of, on one side, is a huge body of people who are calling for total disarmament and non-proliferation, and says, let's move towards a nuclear-free world, because in doing so, we may assure subsisting generations a safer planet, a safer environment. On the one side, you have the most powerful countries who possess among them thousands of nuclear weapons, who regards them as part of deterrence, maybe against one another. And then you have a number of countries, what we call threshold countries, who have since developed technology to produce nuclear weapons. So you have this difficult world you are dealing with, both in the Security Council and other platforms. You know, there is another track where in Geneva, at Conference on Disarmament, and I used to be ambassador there, we discussed this issue of disarmament. And then in Vienna, non-proliferation. So we have these other 2 centers where this issue has been discussed. At the UN, in 2017, a group of countries took initiative to develop a test ban treaty. And South Africa was one of those very, very active to say, what we can then do towards this nuclear-free world is to agree on test ban treaty and begin denuclearizing the world, begin for giving away the nuclear weapons. We have not yet won that argument. We're doing so on behalf of the survivors of atomic bombing of 1945, the Hibakushas, and the many atolls in the Pacific who took the bomb. You know, if you go to some of the atolls in Pacific, there are still traces. Islands have disappeared. People are still suffering. The many, many explosive devices that were carried there. But I think it's something that we are all seized with. It doesn't go away, but I think all of us are trying to discuss it. It's a pity because of coronavirus, we have to postpone the review conference. But the issue is going to be coming. It's going. You may call it double standard, but some call it security, some call it deterrent, some say, but you don't need it. You don't need so many arms. Some say, no, okay, let's develop a safer one, sharper ones. So it's still a debate going on. And I think we'll have to follow it with time. Now, my sister at the back, thanks very much from the UN Associated Press. Thanks for welcoming us. Now, the Libya question and the envoys. It has been over a year that Secretary General could not appoint the envoy for Libya. Not because of the Africans, as we are led to know. We had two African candidates before. Former Minister of Algeria, Lamambra, he was blocked. Secretary General presented another envoy, former Foreign Minister, Trade Minister of Ghana, a very distinguished women leader, blocked. And the Africans says, but it cannot be proper that when you have so many conflicts in the African continent, and then the Africans have shown the capacity, political will to resolve the conflicts, and they have close to 1.3 billion people. We cannot be told that we don't have qualified Africans to be envoys in the African continent. The principal positions, and they were saying, look, 80% of the peacekeepers in Africa are Africans, especially in the most difficult missions are Africans. But when it comes to facilitating peace, we are being overlooked. So the Africans make this point. However, typical to Africans, we always listen to other voices. Then, the breakthrough on the Libya discussions brokered by Germany and subsequent meetings, especially when the 5+5 military from both sides found a ceasefire. And then there was meetings in Egypt, in Morocco, and in Tunisia on the political track, including the last one a few days ago in Tunisia, where 75 Libyans met and say, now we agree on a political track. The Africans took a view that we have made our point about appointing our envoy, but Secretary General can go ahead and appoint whoever he appoints. The Africans will oblige. And then we also informed that they will also appoint number 2 as an African to work closely with them, but also that the UN envoy in Tripoli will work very closely with an African envoy in the same compound. We're also informed that parallel to these tracks, the United Nations will also work with the African Union on what you call a Brazzaville track, the one led by President Sassou Nguesso of Republic of Congo, on the summit on reconciliation of Libyans to be held by the Africans. Our President Cyril Ramaphosa is also part of that track. That parallel to all these things, we can then move in. But also that the envoy will consult regularly with the neighboring countries, Egypt, Niger, Tunisia, and others, to make sure that the political development in Libya or its fallout, especially as per agreed ceasefire conditions of repatriating foreign fighters with their weapons, removing landmines on the routes around the cities, and allowing inter-Libyan flights, that there will be no weapons from the Libyan theater on the rest of the Africa, like we saw in 2011, 2012. Now, with this agreement, the Africans saw a nice package of moving forward. So we hope very soon Secretary General will be announcing his choice for a Libyan envoy. And as I say, the Africans will oblige. And we hope that will give momentum to the political track now we are seeing evolving in Libya. We need a stable Libya. It's a very substantial country in the African continent. On the Iran issue and the accident or the incident of the killing of Iranian nuclear scientists, so far the President of the Security Council that you assumed 1 minute after midnight today, we've not received any request by anybody to discuss the question. No country has opposed us to say, look, we can discuss the Iran question. But we are all hopeful that when we discuss the JCPOA towards the end of presidency, there will be new environment, new atmosphere on the global situation, that countries will be agreeing to go back to JCPOA, to build confidence among them, and implement the agreement as reflected in the JCPOA. Thanks, PC.
Thank you, Ambassador. So let me start at the back, and then I'll come to you, James, afterwards, and then the back again. So.
Ambassador, you're going to talk about MONUSCO, South Sudan, Mali, Burundi, but I don't see anywhere that you're to talk about Ethiopia. Can I ask you why?
Okay, that's the question. Okay, so we're going to take that one. James?
I actually had two questions. One of them was on Ethiopia. Has the Security Council failed on Ethiopia? Did it fail to act too soon? I know that you were waiting for the African Union and IGAD, but should the Security Council have acted earlier, given the humanitarian dimensions of what's happened there? And the other question was a follow-up on Libya. One of the difficult things the Secretary-General's got to do is come up with some options now for monitors on the ground in Libya. What is your view of that monitoring mission? Have you any ideas of which countries might perform it? I know the EU offered some sort of contribution to that, and the Libyan parties say they don't want regional organisations, they want individual countries. So what's your view of EU peacekeepers or monitors?
Thank you very much. And then let's do another question in the back.
Yeah, thank you. Ambassador, you talk about many issues, but I think you didn't mention Western Sahara region. Right now, there are a lot of hostilities in this area of the world between Morocco and the Polisario Front. We just want to know, is there any action you plan to take or any meeting? Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks very much. Let me start with the issue of Ethiopia. The Security Council did have a very private meeting on the issue of Ethiopia last week. That coincided with the chairperson of the AU announcing the envoys, His Excellency Joaquim Alberto Chissano, former president of Mozambique, as you know, and His Excellency Kgalema Motlanthe, former president of South Africa, and Her Excellency Ellen Sirleaf Johnson, very highly respected leaders from different regions of Africa, to go and interact with their brother, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, and their sister, President Sahle-Work Zewde in Ethiopia, to exchange views on the situation. So at that point, the conclusion was, let's encourage the AU chairperson, President Cyril Ramaphosa, and his delegation to go to Ethiopia, to preside with them, and then he will then get a report from the envoys, and maybe we'll then act on it. But prior to this, you are aware, there was interventions, there were suggestions from IGAD. The chair of IGAD, Prime Minister Hamdok, was talking with his brother, Prime Minister Abiy, Prime Minister Museveni, Azayas. There were so many discussions there to come to the question raised by James, so that to contain the situation. And part of the concern of everybody is that Ethiopia is a founding member of the United Nations. You know, there were 5 African countries in San Francisco, 24th of April, 1945. Ethiopia, South Africa, they were among others who were there. So it's a founding member, Ethiopia, played a critical role. And actually, Emperor Haile Selassie made a very significant contribution towards peaceful resolution of conflict. And that's why subsequently the African agreed to have their capital in Ethiopia. Secondly, it's a massive country. Actually, Ethiopia is the pillar of stability in the Horn of Africa. And everybody wanted to see it stabilized at peace, because then you could see what Prime Minister Abiy have done. Actually, he was, as a chair of IGAD, he really helped to see where Sudan is transitioned. It was because of his action. He lowered the tension between Ethiopia and Eritrea, and he started to support process in Somalia. That's why to Somalia with a roadmap towards election. It was because of Ethiopia. And then they got troops in South Sudan at Abyei region. And that's why now we have all the groups in Sudan meeting and agreeing to join Sudan peace process. It was because of Ethiopia, with all civilization, culture, history. So everybody was concerned about this. So, my sister and James, it is not we are avoiding it. Actually, it came out again today at the Security Council when we were adopting the program of work. And then everybody said, let the A3+1 meet, and Tunisia, who is the coordinator of A3+, is going to call a meeting, we'll look at it, and get the reports. And I think we'll be informed of what do we do thereafter. Nobody's dodging it. We want to silence the guns everywhere. And we have been discussing with the donors to please give support, humanitarian support to refugee and displaced person. Now, on the issue of follow-up you wanted to see in Libya, monitoring. Look, after the 5+5 agreement, the question was now, how do we monitor the ceasefire? How do we make sure that indeed identified foreign fighters have left with their arms? How do we find that there is no going to be violation? Now we know we have a presence in Ethiopia, in Libya. So idea was to look into their work and perhaps, as James was saying, to come with some form of robust monitoring so that we don't slide back in Libya. But also we protect the political track because ultimately it's going to be political solution. But if you don't take care of the militants, we may have a problem. So James and myself, this is a question that has been discussed, and we hope to have early resolution on what kind of mechanism. We know European colleagues have offered, but the views of our Libyan brothers. Now, Libyan brothers, don't blame them. I think the last 8-9 years has been difficult for them. To a point where they begin to look with suspicion on everybody else. What do they want? Why are they here? So maybe I think we should give a process, the discussions. I know that that our sister, the acting envoy, Stephina Williams, is dealing with the matter, discussing with the issues, discussing with the Libyan parties, both the Prime Minister and the General Haftar. He's discussing with the other political parties, including the NGOs. The civil society was very worried in Tunisia about continuation of ceasefire. But mostly is the neighboring countries which are very, very worried about any violations from the sea, from the air, and road. So we hope that during our presidency there will be a solution found on a robust monitoring of the ceasefire that agreed in Libya, including verification that foreign fighters have left Libya. Now, on the issue of Western Sahara, we have witnessed in the last 3 weeks a very difficult situation and around the Gujarat. We have seen tension flare up between Frente Polisario and the Kingdom of Morocco royal forces around the route going through that area. Very, very unfortunate. And you saw Frente Polisario saying they've ended the almost 30 years ceasefire. It has ended, meaning they're going back to fighting. And the African Union, Secretary General, have called both parties to respect the ceasefire, to return to the pre-agreed front lines, to de-escalate the tension, and including the speedy appointment of the envoy for Secretary General. It's almost a year now since envoy Hans Koller left. So it is like a refrozen conflict. There is no political movement because for over a year there is no envoy to kickstart the development. So you have twin problems: the end of ceasefire by Frente Polisario, meaning back to the front line, and the impasse in appointing the envoy. But I think we are optimistic that Secretary General, who briefed us twice in the November, that he tried, got 3 envoys, is tough. It's tough. There are no takers. They think and leave. So it's very tough to get an envoy. Should we look into another alternative mechanism? We don't know. But we trust the Secretary General that he will continue his efforts to try to appoint the envoy. And we hope that the parties will cease the fire, and then the UN fulfill its unfulfilled promise to Sahrawis, the referendum. The 1991 decision of ceasefire was based that in 1992-93 there will be a referendum. 30 years later, 30 years next year, no referendum. I think we should admit all of us have failed the people of Western Sahara. And we postponed their self-determination further and further away. So we hope that this new incident, this new situation will propel all of us to move with haste and restore what we decided as United Nations, both General Assembly and Security Council, on the issue of Western Sahara. As South Africa, we hope that the parties will seize the opportunity, de-escalate, and we go back to the ceasefire, and United Nations Security Council seize the opportunity and move towards the referendum on Western Sahara.
Thank you, Ambassador. And we've got some questions from the participants that are online. So in view of the fact that, it's not possible to have everybody here, I think it's important also not to discriminate against them that are participating online from us. So if I can pass the floor to Michelle, who's indicated that she's got a question, and then we'll move down a short list that I have here. Michelle? If not, I'm going to move to the next. Okay. Michelle, we'll come back to you if you're having difficulties signing in. So Valeria, we had an indication Valeria would like to ask a question. Valeria, you've got the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. Please, let me thank you again for this press conference on behalf of Banca IME remotely. I hope you accept the thanks anyway. So I have a follow-up on Libya. Do you expect, last week it looks that the Security Council agreed on Mr. Mladenov as a new special envoy for Libya, but then we're still waiting for the appointment. Do you think that we can have like a double appointment, the special envoy for Libya at the same time of a new envoy for the Middle East peace process? Thank you so much again.
Thank you very much, Valeria. Then next on the list is, and I hope I pronounce your name correctly, is Ibtisam. I hope that is correct.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you. So I have two questions. The one is also a follow-up on Libya. I will make it short. It is regarding the immigrants in Libya and their situation and the fact that the European Union and their policies in this regard, and the fact they send many of these migrants back, despite the fact that they know that they will face very hard situation and violation of human rights. So if you can say more to that, and whether these issues are being discussed also in your meetings in the Security Council. The second question, I have just a general question to you, Ambassador. In these 2 years, if you look back, what would you say that was your most challenge or that you faced? Thank you. And I forgot to introduce myself. It's Sam Azim from Al Arab Al Jadid newspaper. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We've got 2 more questions, but I think if you want to answer these, Ambassador, and then we'll do the last 2. Let's see, we are running out of time. So if we can do that.
Okay, thanks very much, Valeria. Follow up. You know the. Okay. Oh, thanks very much, my sister. I can see you now. I was looking for you. You know, let's be what you call. There was a concern that if there was suggested that you appoint Nikolai Mladinov to Libya, then what do you do with the Middle East peace process, especially at this stage? And I think Secretary General took a very good view, and I really have high respect for him, that what we'll do simultaneous appointments. So the concern about vacuum or freeze or concern about it is not there. Because people raise the question that he's doing a very good job, balance reports, and is keeping the whole thing going. And yet we have a very difficult situation in the Middle East. So I think that's why, Valeria, there was an issue that there was this simultaneous appointment, which most of us welcomed and appreciated. And then some follow up on Libya. The issue of immigrants is a very concerning issue. Now, in the ever discussions on Libya, including the briefing we had last month in November by Stephanie Williams, these issues were raised. To say as much as we applaud, celebrate the success inter-Libyan dialogue, ceasefire agreeing, and Libyans even now meeting in Libya, no longer abroad, meeting in Libya. We should not forget the issue of migrants in Libya. Some of them are sent back home. And as you say, maybe under very difficult circumstances. So our general appeal has been those who are temporarily hosting the migrants, especially from Middle East and Africa, we should really look carefully because of the circumstances under which they will be received. We have not only coronavirus, economies have been dissipated by coronavirus. And so there is a general appeal to all of us to be slightly very kind to these migrants, including we appeal to the Libyan parties not to target the migrants in their fighting or discriminate against them in terms of services going forward. Now, as for the 2 years, look, we're in the Security Council now for the 3rd time in 10 years. 2007, 2008, 11 and 12, and 19 and 20. The Council, I must say, is more divided than during our first tenure and second tenure. Very sharp differences in the Council. But work gets done. I think skills of diplomats have been tested. Maturity of diplomacy have been tested. And I think this sometimes you can learn from some of these circumstances that we are still responsible for maintaining peace and security. End of the day, we must discharge the responsibility about the Charter. So we have to find a way of overcoming our differences, sometimes based on national interest, sometimes on geostrategic interest, sometimes on things that are not a part of the council, that are brought outside into the council. But if you look into the number of the resolutions we have done, the number of the visits we have done, and how we managed to move a number of conflict. Take South Sudan. When we came in, South Sudan was in trouble. Now we can see movement towards peace. Sudan was in chaos. Now you can see a transition in Sudan going forward. When we arrived in the DRC, there was the elections, there was contest. We came in and we say, look, it may not have been 100% elections, but let's build on what we have done. Now you can see DRC becoming stable, is building relations with neighbors, Angola, Rwanda, Burundi, Uganda. You can see the peace overtures in that area. Burundi was difficulties. Now Burundi actually may exist Security Council this year. CAR, we had 13, 14 different armed groups there. Now we can see, we even have a timetable in CAR towards the elections going forward. So even with these problems, Libya was a chaos. Now you can see some form of stability, some form of, overtures for peace in Libya. Of course, we still have to deal with Yemen. Syria is still difficult, but even in Syria now, 10 days ago, they agreed on the agenda for Sudan Committee and the dates for 2 terms. So worldwide, you could see movement towards meaningful movement towards a political situation. With all these problems, I mean, Somalia now, they agreed on transitional plan, they agreed on the form of elections, how to conduct them. We are busy now, with election campaigns in Somalia, voter education, registration. So, although there is a tension in the Security Council, they did come around and find way towards peace and stability worldwide in different ways. But we are satisfied as South Africa that we see more and more movement towards inclusive political dialogue, more and more movement towards a political settlement, more and more of giving people the chance to cast their votes and choose their leaders in various conflicts in the world. So it was difficult, tense, toxic, but there is a glimmer of hope going down the line.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Thanks,
I think
Mr.
we'll do the last 2 questions before we get to 1 o'clock. So I've got two names and I've got one person indicating on the screen. So I'm going to let me go to the screen first. I can't see the name. So yes. So you've got the floor and then I'll go to 2 more people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I put my name on the list. My name is Abdul Hamid Sayyid from the Arabic daily Al-Quds Al-Arabi. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, and congratulations for the presidency of the Security Council. I have a question on the situation in Palestine. And as far as you know, the 2-state solution has been on the agenda for a long time. In fact, Resolution 1397 was adopted in 2002, and Resolution 1515 was adopted in 2003. And they've been repeating 2-state solution, 2-state solution. Do you believe practically, and is there any chance for the 2-state solution? Is it viable? Is it possible? Is it feasible? Or we see it slipping away from our hands, especially after the bargain this century, and some Arab countries are breaking away from the fold and jumping into the arms of Israel. That's one part. And my second part, why don't take the initiative, Mr. Ambassador, and just go take a few ambassadors and go see the situation in the Gaza Strip and see for yourself the largest human prison on earth for the last 30 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Abdul Hamid. You were on our list, so thank you so much for that. And then the last is Margaret. We had Margaret on the list as well. If I don't see Margaret.
Thank you. Hi,
Yes.
Ambassador. Good to see you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hold on. Ambassador, I just would like to get your reaction, please, on the nomination of Linda Thomas Greenfield to be the new U.S. ambassador to the UN. She has extensive experience in Africa. Perhaps you've met her. She's well known to many AU members. So what do you hope for U.S. engagement at the UN during her tenure, once she's confirmed? And also, what do you hope for U.S. engagement from this new administration? Thanks.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Dulcie, if you would like to ask me.
I wanted to ask you about Linda Thomas Greenfield as well, and what you might want to say to her regarding her experience with Africa and how to approach Africans on the Security Council. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ambassador.
Thanks very much, Abdul Hamid. The situation in Palestine, I think we'll all agree, is a grave situation. We all agree that 7 decades of this issue being the Security Council has not led to peace in Palestine. And I think we all agree that we, United Nations and Security Council, who partitioned Palestine, created 2 countries. And we said in that resolution, 1948, we'll have two states living side by side in peace. 1948. I think we all agree we have not fulfilled that promise. And we all agree that collectively we have failed Palestinian people. And we also agree that if you look at the geography of Palestine, the land has been squeezed. There almost nothing left for Palestine to have a viable economic state. And this was under our watch. As Security Council, as United Nations. And therefore, that we need to reset our approach to situation in Palestine, that we need to find many ways of restoring confidence of Palestinians on the Security Council and United Nations, that indeed we can help them to ensure peace and security. Now, there's been a very recent development in the Middle East. A number of our Arab sisters, brothers have taken initiative to normalize relations with Israel, perhaps as a contribution towards a long-term solution for Palestine. I think all of us are waiting to see if this will positively impact. But in as member states, we all have our own rights to decide on how we partner, how we all normalize, how we all deal with one another. The hope is that all this will contribute towards a lasting solution in Palestine. Hamid, I had a chance in my past as a South African bureaucrat to drive through that vast land, from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem to Ramallah, to launch a project there and drive across to Jordan, up to Syria and back. What I see today is not what I saw in 2009, 2008. Those areas I visited, I went to Nablus, I went to Haifa, I went to the Nazareth and met Palestinian mayors there. But since then, more and more of the land has been taken away from them. Since then, more and more has been broken from what I see. So they normally send me pictures, and I say, hey, what happened there? No, Jerry, that's been destroyed. So the pain continues. It's worse in other parts of the Palestinian territory. Now, what do we do? All of us are now thinking ahead. President Abbas have asked for international conference next year to discuss the situation. Some of us were privileged. I was in the conference in the U.S. called by President Bush. It was a conference. I was a South African delegate with my minister then in the U.S. Well-attended conference. Annapolis, if you remember, most of you, so many leaders from Palestine. And then they invited us, IPSA, India, Brazil, South Africa, to come and attend as Friends of Palestine. So we hope that a similar conference could bear fruit. From that conference was a broad agreement on how to go around peace, a release of prisoners. There was an issue of land for peace. A very concrete agreement was done. So we hope that next year there could be a different environment globally so that we can then meet on the Palestinian issue. It's a request by a Palestinian, and I see in the last Security Council briefing by Marinov, most council members are looking forward for that conference. And we hope that as we discuss the issue towards the end, I think 21st of December, there will be some indication on the shape of that conference. Now, about my friend Linda Thomas Greenfield. You know, Linda is a friend of mine. She's an African expat. She made a lot of trips to Africa. When I was Director General or Permanent Secretary or Foreign Minister, we used to meet quite a lot. But it's a pity Linda will come here when I'm no longer in the Security Council. Could it be very good that maybe, James, you can ask them to extend my stay in the Security Council until Linda comes, you know, so I can shake her hands and go. But I think the African view, I think the A3+1 will get additional support on African issues. And also we think that the new administration will look differently on Palestinian question and perhaps have an early start on how to resolve it. But having Linda here, I think it will be a very big injection, a new spirit, building on the predecessors. Even our friends, Kelly Craft, and before him, we work very well with the colleagues on some issues. Doesn't mean when Linda arrives there, everything will be resolved. No, but, we think that should bring to bear her vast experience, over 3 decades of diplomacy. And that's when we need it now. Now we need diplomatic skills, maturity, and knowing that we have a common cause, all of us. Whether we discuss a situation in Latin America, Colombia, Venezuela, whether it's a question of Cuba, whether it's Burundi, Rwanda, Somalia, Sudan, whether it is Iraq, Iran, Syria, Yemen, whether it's Lebanon, whether it's the issue of Cyprus, we all need one another. And only when we can work together will we succeed. But thank you very much. I see my boss asked me to stop here. But thanks so much, colleagues, for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. And thank you, colleagues. Thank you so much for all the questions. And this is the end of the press briefing. Thank you.